to Breathe by Ashley Neese. Read by Book Dragon, Part 3. The thing is, most of us haven't spent that much time paying attention to our breath or living in our bodies. So it can feel really weird to start a breathwork practice in the beginning. It can be very challenging just to be with ourselves. No distractions, just us and our breath, and the body that we have been running from for so long. If you want to develop a relationship to your breath and ultimately to your life force and spirit, you are going to have to be in this for the long haul. I realize that might sound daunting, given that this book is for beginners, but it's the truth. Exploring our breath is the start of a lifetime journey of learning, one inhale and exhale at a time, to inhabit our bodies and live from a place of fullness and presence. Establishing a practice. Being dedicated and devoted to your practice is essential. Before you begin the practices in the next section, spend some time thinking about why you want to practice breathwork. What is drawing you to it? Why are you interested in this work? When you are clear on your why, it is much easier to commit to practicing each day, imperfectly of course, with attention, care, and love. How you practice depends on your home and work life. For some of my clients, it means having their partner take care of the kids for an allotted amount of practice time each day. For others, it looks like getting in their calendars and setting a reminder alert. For others, it looks like practicing away from home, in the office, before or after work. Set aside some time to think about what adding a breathwork practice to your day might look like and where it would feel best in your current schedule. And be willing to experiment with different approaches until you find what works best for you. I suggest that you practice daily, and when I say that, I mean it with as much softness and spaciousness as possible. You don't want your breathwork practice to be one more thing in your never-ending to-do list. Instead, frame your breathwork practice as your time each day to do a deeper level of self-care by getting in touch with your life energy, your emotions, and your body. In the beginning, it's preferable to practice around the same time each day. This helps reinforce our nervous systems, which learn through repetition, and sets up our body to know, just like when we know we're hungry or when we need to stretch, that it's time to practice. With time and dedication, your body and mind will come to look forward to your breathwork practice as a time to nourish yourself, gain clarity, and center yourself in the here and now. For those of you who work for yourselves or have busy family lives with ever-changing schedules, practice each day when you can. You will still receive the benefits of the practice. And again, the real key is to get it in each day, just like you do your veggies and water. It's more important to practice than it is to feel like your practice has to look a certain way. If you already have a meditation practice, you can add one of the breathwork practices to it. If all of this is new to you, then start by choosing a practice in the next section that resonates with you in that moment. For those who are new to establishing a practice, I recommend starting with one practice and doing it every day for 2 weeks. At the end of those weeks, evaluate where you are, and continue with that practice, or choose a different one for the next 2 weeks. Closing your practice. At the end of most practices, in the next section, I have a note about closing the practice. Taking a few moments to acknowledge the end of your practice will help you assimilate what you gained from your session. It is also an easy way to transition into your next activity feeling more aware. In many yoga classes, it is common to come out of a savasana into a seated meditation, placing your hands together in front of your heart and recognizing the teacher within. I find this to be a grounding way to support and affirm my focus from class, allowing it to linger throughout the day. Gently coming out of your breathwork practice by closing it has a similar effect and gives you an opportunity to shift into whatever is next with ease. I suggest keeping your closing direct and uncomplicated. A brief internal or vocal acknowledgement that your practice time has ended is sufficient. If you want to take the closing a step further, revisit your intention from the beginning of your practice and reaffirm it, silently or aloud. You will find that some of the shorter practices in the next section don't lend themselves to long closing, and a few practices don't have any closing instructions. Experiment with closing the shorter practices in a way that feels good to you. Often, a quick acknowledgement that the practice is over is plenty to move forward. Let's begin. 25 breathwork practices. In the following pages, you will discover 25 breathwork practices that are easy to integrate into modern life, from getting a better night's sleep to reducing anxiety to setting boundaries. The breathing practices in this section are the most effective tool I've created for establishing a sense of connection, relief, and deeper purpose in every aspect of life. The practices are presented in alphabetical order. Each one has a simple title followed by an in-depth explanation of its benefits, the specific breathwork instructions, and notes that shed light on the nuance of each practice. Breathwork can be practiced with eyes open or closed, depending on your comfort level. Closing the eyes pulls our attention inward and removing external visual distractions. This can help quiet the mind, supporting a deeper level of attunement to the breath, body, and internal landscape. Practicing with the eyes open is helpful if you wish to stay visually oriented to the world around you. Bring energy into your practice or aren't ready to go fully inward. This is useful if you are just starting a breathwork practice or don't feel safe in your body. It's important to acknowledge your needs and allow your eyes to support you in the best way. This will open up more possibility for your breathwork practice to have greater benefits. Anger. Anger is a natural and often unwanted emotion that can be very difficult to express. Anger can arise from a wide range of experiences, like a long commute in traffic, being treated unfairly, not being heard, or being criticized at work or by a loved one. How we experience anger can range from a mild irritation to an intense frustration to fiery rage. When experiencing anger is part of the human experience, it's important to have a tool for cooling the flames and taking a closer look at what anger is trying to tell us. Most psychologists agree that anger is a secondary emotion, meaning it's fueled by primary emotions like fear or sadness. Fear and sadness are two of the most challenging emotions to face, as they require us to confront our own vulnerability and the reality of life's uncertainty, to avoid being seen as or feeling too vulnerable. Anger comes online to help us feel like we're running the show and have more power in and over our lives. Let's face it, we all get angry, and there are a few places where it's acceptable to express our anger. Because of that, it's usually one of the first emotions to get stuffed down and stored in our bodies. I've heard of many of my clients say, too many times to count, that they never get angry. After a few sessions together, they become aware that they do, in fact, get angry, but they've just been afraid to feel it. This is largely because we live in a culture that tells us anger is a negative emotion, that it should be avoided at all costs, and if for some reason you do express anger, you are labeled as an aggressive, hostile, or worse. The anger breath is a calming aid that helps us regulate the nervous system and shift us from an activated fight or flight response to a grounded place of ease. Anger is often accompanied by a short, statical breath that is shallow in the chest. These psychological markers are indicators that our sympathetic nervous system is switched on. You've probably been advised, count backward from 10 to 1 to reduce anger. And while there is some truth to that, switching up your breath is a much faster way to change your state and create a different experience. When we're able to downshift our anger with the breath, it is easier to feel into the primary emotions. Just underneath the anger, see the larger picture and facilitate mindful action. The anger breath is also a helpful tool for putting our attention on what we have control over instead of wasting our energy on what isn't ours to control. Anger. Standing up, 3 minutes. The practice. Stand with your feet hip distance apart. Set an intention for your practice. Take long breaths in through your nose. Exhale quickly through your mouth. Repeat this for 3 rounds. Place one hand on your belly. Inhale deeply through your nose. Exhale gently through your nose. As you breathe, bring attention to your hand, observing the rise and fall of your belly. Repeat this for 2 full minutes. Close your practice. Note any changes you experienced and journal. Notes. This is a very simple and effective practice for bringing an activated nervous system into a grounded, more relaxed state. The anger breath is meant to serve as a tool to shift you out of the immediate, pressing anger you are experiencing, and it can be used to clear past hurts as well. Breathing with your hand on your belly is an effective way to guide your body to where you want to be breathing. Over time and with practice, your body builds a somatic memory of having your hand on your belly when you're regulating anger, and it will begin to shift your breath without much effort. This is one of the ways that our bodies are incredibly brilliant and efficient in an effort to bring us to a state of calm, health, and overall well-being. Anger has such a stigma in the wellness community, which undermines and negates our humanness and makes it easy to feel that if we experience anger, we are doing something wrong and aren't healthy. Instead of looking at anger as the enemy, I guide my clients towards viewing their anger as an internal alarm that is letting them know that something isn't right. With this shift in perspective, we can let anger be our teacher, leading us into the places we've been avoiding within ourselves, guiding us to stand up for the injustices that are against our values, and reminding us with every breath that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Boundaries. One of the most healthy habits we can learn is to have clear and strong boundaries. Early on, I learned that we set boundaries for ourselves, not for others, and that boundaries are not selfish. They are a form of radical self care. If you have trouble differentiating your feelings from those of others, tend to absorb other people's feelings, find yourself weighed down or preoccupied by the energy of others, have trouble saying no, or identify as a highly sensitive person, a people pleaser, or an empath, the boundaries breath is a great tool to have in your self care kit. When I was younger, I wore my empathy like a badge of honor. While I do believe that being sensitive is a gift, empathy, on the other hand, is often a marker of growing up in a dysfunctional household or experiencing relational trauma. This can lead to feeling overly responsible for other people's emotions, not being able to say no, or constantly changing yourself to make other people happy. True empaths and I have worked with many over the years. Take other people's emotions, thoughts, and even physical symptoms. What happens when you're an empath is that your energy centers are too open and your personal boundaries are weak, perhaps non existent, therefore allowing other people's energy to come in. When these two energies mix, it disrupts your own nervous system and makes it difficult to distinguish your feelings from the other person's. In this state of confusion, it's challenging to make decisions with your own best interest at heart. Oftentimes, we absorb other people's energies without realizing it because it's a habit we've had for so long and works in many subtle ways. The good news is that by taking the time to practice the boundaries breath, you will begin to establish strength in your own system so that you have the power to stay in your own lane, differentiate from others, feel less responsible for others, and feel empowered to make saying no part of your life. Many of the clients I've worked with haven't had luck with the more cognitive psychotherapy interventions around setting boundaries because they didn't address the body. If you feel like you don't have any boundaries and can't sense your body, it's incredibly difficult to try to communicate your needs. What's powerful about the boundaries breath is that it works directly with your body through your breath while giving you a visual tool to further support the practice. This combination of breath, visualizing, and eventually vocalizing are key aspects to why the practice is effective. Boundaries. Sitting up 10 minutes. The practice. Take a comfortable seat. Breathe in and out through the nose for a minute to settle in. Set your practice intention. Begin by visualizing a sphere of gold surrounding you on the inhale. As you exhale, keep that sphere in place, allowing it to settle. Notice where the edge of the sphere is in relation to your body. Is it 3 inches away? 1 foot? 10? Make a quick mental note and then come back to your breath. Keep the sphere in the same place for the next 7 minutes as you continue to inhale and exhale. Take a full minute to release the visual guide of the sphere and settle into yourself. As you settle, see if any words want to be expressed around your boundary. If so, say them aloud. Close your practice. Note any changes you experienced and journal. Notes. Be sure to jot down in your notes where the sphere was in relation to your body in your practice session. This is key for boundary work. I suggest practicing daily for 2 weeks initially to start to establish a new boundary system for your body. After the first 2 weeks, practice the boundaries breath at least 3 times a week. If you identify as an empath, I highly suggest practicing daily for many months to really solidify this practice in your body. In each practice session after the first, experiment with the distance of the sphere. In some sessions, pull it closer into you, and in others, expand it further away. Note the changes that come in your journal. After several rounds of practice, you will have a good idea of where the sphere is most comfortable for you. Then work with that distance for at least 1 week or more if you choose. The boundaries breath can bring up big emotions, childhood and family of origin work. As uncomfortable as it might be in the moment, it's actually a really good thing. Whatever surfaces during your practice session and while you're out in the world is ready to be explored, healed, and integrated. Learning to set boundaries has been one of the most challenging and rewarding practices of my life, and I am still learning each day. In the beginning, my boundaries were really harsh and intense because I had to break the habit of years and years of putting others' needs before my own and merging with them on a regular basis. Today, my boundaries, while firm, are much softer, and I actually enjoy saying no and practicing self-care. Cleanse. One of the first breathing practices I learned in my early yoga days was Kapalabhati, or skull shining breath. I found this practice difficult and intense, but loved how it made me feel afterwards. The cleanse breath is a modified version of the classic pranayama technique, and though it's less intense on the system, it has similar effects and benefits. As I mentioned in the section entitled Breath, the Foundational Tool, the majority of the toxins in our body are released through our exhale. The cleanse breath places emphasis on the exhale with a slight drawing in of the abdomen to gently cleanse and tone the respiratory system while purifying and refreshing the body and mind. The cleanse breath is also an excellent choice for clearing the mind of cluttered thinking. Think of the cleanse breath as your one-stop practice to release unwanted toxins in the body and uplift the mind. This practice also energizes the nervous system and rejuvenates brain cells by increasing oxygen supply in the body. Cleanse. Sitting up 5 minutes. The practice. Sit in a comfortable position with your spine straight and tall. Place your hands on your knees facing up. Set your practice intention. Breathe in and out through your nose for 1 minute to settle in. Place one hand on your abdomen and open your eyes. Inhale deeply. As you exhale, gently contract your lower belly, releasing the breath through the nose in a short burst. As you release your abdomen, breath will flow into your lungs automatically. Take 10 rounds of breath in this manner. Relax, perhaps with your eyes closed, and notice the sensations in your body. Complete 2 more cycles of 10 rounds of breath with a relaxing period afterward. Close your practice and journal. Notes. This is one of the most advanced practices in the book. I highly suggest that you develop a breathwork routine for at least 2 months with the other practices first before trying the cleanse breath. If you are pregnant, have just given birth, or menstruating, you should avoid this practice. In addition, if you are recently recovering from surgery, have high blood pressure, or a heart condition, or a respiratory condition, use caution when practicing the cleanse breath. Go slowly and trust your body. If it feels like too much, stop. The traditional practice of Kapalabhati instructions uses language like force the exhale out of the nose. And the practice is done very rapidly, which can cause dizziness or lightheadedness. The cleanse breath was designed to be a softer, more gentle way to reap the benefits of this classic pranayama practice without placing unnecessary stress on the body or nervous system. Connection. Lack of connection is a serious issue facing our world today. As we become increasingly dependent on computers and devices to do so many of the things that we have done for ourselves in the past, from grocery shopping to dating to communicating, we live in less of a community and more in isolation. While long-term effects are still in question, research already shows that our health, vitality, and resilience are greatly impacted by our diminishing everyday social connections. Humans are social creatures. We are, by design, meant to interact and relate with those around us. As our world continues to make these technological advancements, many of which are very useful and important, it's equally important that we not get lost from our very human need to connect to others in real time and in real life. Studies have shown for decades that babies cannot survive without contact from other humans, and that we as a species cannot thrive in isolation. The remedy for isolation is connection, and the breath is such an incredible invitation to connect with our most fundamental needs and desires. When the connection breath is practiced with another person, it is transformative for both people. When our systems sync up with one another, we tap into a group nervous system that is both regulating and healing. The connection breath reminds us that taking a few minutes to sit and breathe with another person is a powerful antidote to many of our daily struggles. And it is a healing balm that supports us in times of uncertainty. We are meant to hold each other, lift each other up, and witness each other. The connection breath is one way to do this. Connection. Sitting up with a partner, 10 minutes. The practice. Find a comfortable seat facing your partner. Breathe in and out through the nose for a minute to settle in. Set your practice intentions. When ready, turn around and sit with your backs touching. Breathe slowly in and out through your noses. Without rushing or speaking to each other, allow your breaths to begin to sync up. Breathe in sync for 8 minutes. Gently release the practice and allow your breath to flow naturally. Rest for a few moments and notice how you feel. Also, notice what happens with the breath. Journal. Spend a few minutes discussing what came up for each of you, and close your practice with a hug.